So right away, inappropriately sexy lady mentioned at the beginning of the video. Okay, I'll just let you look at these thumbnails and you can get into the rest of the video from there and be bummed out alongside me. Hey guys, so I'm into the whole Pomodoro thing. Pomodoro, if you're not familiar with it, is a method of working. It is called tomato in Italian because Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, because the idea is that you're working with a tomato timer. 25 minutes of straight work, and then ding, take a little 5-minute break, 25 more minutes, 5-minute break. Do that maybe a couple of cycles and take a longer break, start over. There are different frameworks you can use, but that's the idea. The idea is doing these short bursts with pre-programmed, pre-planned breaks. And you can get all sorts of, of apps like calendar apps, et cetera, that have Pomodoro timers. You can get apps that are just dedicated to Pomodoro work flows. And there are other similar ideas out there that are just basically aids to focus and continuing your work. One of the things that exists with Pomodoro studying and working are live streams. So you can easily find online streams of people working on whatever they're working on, and they're absolutely quiet for like those 25 minutes or however long it is. And then they'll interact with their chat for a few minutes and they'll go back to working quietly. There's some music playing, whatever. The idea is almost like to create an office sort of space. You also are working alongside of this person. This person's stream is effectively your Pomodoro timer. Then when you take a break, you have a little group of people that you're going to talk to. I've been fascinated by the idea of online community for as long as I can remember. So a subject of lots of science fiction writing in the 80s and 90s and stuff that I was into. I'm just a 90s creature of that sort of vibe. I resisted for years putting a password on my Wi-Fi. It was like an ethical thing for me. I was all about LAN connections, and I was a big Cory Doctorow fan, et cetera, et cetera. So it may not surprise you to hear that, well, I'm interested in this sort of thing, and I see these sorts of communities or activities as very legitimate. Just because something is happening online doesn't make it not real. And I'm not going to get into that side of things, but I want to show you guys something that made me really sad. Because the thing that gets me excited about being online is the potential for real community, not as an escape, but as an overflow, as an abundance, as an empowerment, right? Where I can do things that I never could have done without being online in community. Let me show you guys something. The CSW app, alone but never lonely, for the introverts who just need company. So I was looking for a Pomodoro timer as I'm over break. I want a little structure. And I was even considering, streaming some Pomodoro stuff myself, which I may still do. So I was looking for maybe a little timing app I could have up on my screen. And well, I ran into this website. Alone but never lonely, for the introverts who just need company. So I thought I'd share this thing. I think it really is sad. I'm not mocking it. I'm grieved by it. So I told you that, I'm into the supercharge to community that being online is. And you can have communities that are strictly online, um, that are just as real as a brick and mortar community. Uh, and you can have communities that are mixed online and offline, et cetera, et cetera. This is not a community. These are for introverts who need company. This is like Japanese prostitution, I suppose. So I could join a room now. There are over 500 people online, according to this website. I mean, what beautiful artwork. And look at the art in the background. This actually reminds me of an artist I know named Corey Godby. The art in the background. Anyway, there's that solo person silhouetted by the moon. This beautiful little clay 3D art over here. It's nighttime when you're not lonely, but you are alone. This is the slide that made me decide to make a video. Meet new people without having the pressure of communicating. You know, oh, the 2020 global conflict has left its mark, and it has been a tool of control. But I get, we talk a lot about how younger folk won't call, right? Their stand-up comedy talks about it, and we're not gonna make a phone call. A phone call so stressful. I stopped making phone calls 15 years ago. I hate making phone calls. The funny thing is, I live in a relatively small town now. I I think I annoy people with how much I show up in person. I try to get things done in person. I'll text, I'll message. I dislike making phone calls. And I even sort of get the making a phone call as a barrier. They've been carried to the level of neurosis is something else entirely. But I guess I'm trying to say I'm not completely unsympathetic to it. But here we have a service that caters to a weakness, right? So instead of uh, get better, right? It could even be like meet new people, right? Like what's that app? Glimo. It's this none of those things. But there's an app that people can just hop in and hang out with each other on video. Like language YouTubers love it because you're like, "Ooh, I'm hanging out with someone from Mexico and I'm going to speak Spanish." I forget what it's called, but anyway, right? That could be the approach here, but no, their niche is indulging people who don't want to have to communicate. They simply want to meet. How do you meet without communicating? Well, you exist in the same space. And, that space here is online. So join our focus room Pomodoro timer. Alone but never lonely. We love quiet time. Study with me live. Look at this background art. It's not for nothing so much of this looks sort of Japanese. And I think it's not for nothing that there's a fascination with Japanese culture that is particularly, I mean, this is, decades old. And my favorite movies as a teenager were Japanese movies, along with my dad. But this fascination with the loneliness and impotence of Japanese youth culture. And here we are in the middle of a big, big, brighter than Blade Runner cityscape. We're alone, but we're not lonely. I guess we have a marzipan cat. So I want to see more Japanese stuff, right? I want to see what it is like to be an ambassador. I'm going to be an ambassador. Let's click on that. This is probably the, hey, stream your own, let's see, what is it like? YouTube handle, a subscriber count, Instagram handle, TikTok handle. Yeah. So they're in beta, but I could apply. Look at this: English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, and Tagalog. I wonder where they're from. So the Philippines, obviously, is where Tagalog is from. The Spanish is also commonly spoken. They're either Chinese or Filipino, but I bet they're Filipino. That's really interesting. Anyway, I, as a YouTuber, could comfort people with my presence. You know, for my brief time that I spent streaming on Twitch a couple years ago, I seriously considered streaming to Twitch as a father. You know, and there are people who kind of already do that, but you know, or like YouTube channels like things your dad never taught you, or things you wish your dad had taught you. So grievous. And like so many things. So first of all, you know, that first response, which is always in peril of sounding flippant, is, you know, y'all need Jesus. Jesus comes with community. Jesus comes with his church. And that's an enormous blessing to people. You know, when I hear a young man say that he can't find a wife, I think, man, just go to church. And I'm not like encouraging religious dishonesty, but I actually think that's a way of falling in love with Jesus, not falling in love with a woman, but falling in love with his body, with his people. It's like, oh, these people are awesome. They feed me. They love each other. Oh, this is what love is. And that's how you come to love Jesus. But man, I would love to hear in the comments how you guys think we can show the love of Jesus in a big, boisterous, kind, excellent way. And the excellence is not to be missed out on. You know, what I just showed you, I have the utmost sympathy for it. The way I have sympathy, for example, with a young man whom he struggled with lust. The way I understand it when someone tells me I hired a prostitute. It's depraved and sinful and wicked. We may have sympathy here, but now I will show you a more excellent way. So how can we minister to people who need us in that more excellent way, encouraging them to holiness, encouraging them not to indulge their sin? I'd love to hear in the comments your thoughts about this situation and your thoughts about how we can minister, particularly online. The peace of Christ be upon you.
What day is it today? Remind me.
It's Sunday, Mr. Pinch.
Sunday. And what do we do on a Sunday morning, wherever we happen to be? We go to church, you bloody heathen!